welcome to the second episode of Metals of Mayhem. My name is Patrick Armstrong, and I am the owner-operator of Heritage Metal Service, a metal mounting company from southwestern Ontario that's been in operation since 2003. Metals of Mayhem is back after being a YouTube show for years, but now we're in podcast format where the focus is education, information, and celebration of the Canadian Honours and Awards system, and focusing on those who work diligently to educate about metals and highlight those awarded them. On this edition, we'll be speaking with Sean of Distinguished Service Metals, who is a military veteran and probably one of the ideal role models for metal mounters everywhere. I'm here with Sean Clark from Distinguished Service Metals, and I have to tell you, Sean, I like that name.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough. It was open at the time. I go back a long way. I started in 1998
Wow.
mounting metals.
I came in 2003, but mine were, and I'm sure when you started, the internet was still dealing with web rings, and I'm pretty sure I just had graduated from a 56K modem.
Yeah. They'll never hear the screaming to get online. I mean, all of my original pieces that I wanted to show everybody my work, I used a 110 Kodak camera and actually took pictures of it. All my original first 2 or 3 years worth of work is all on actual film.
Nice, nice. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I joined up in 1986 in Oshawa with the Ontario Regiment, served a 40-year career. I got out 3B in February, so I'm sort of trying to understand what retirement's all about. Thank God I've already got a hobby. I spent the last 15 years basically doing defense diplomacy in the post-Soviet space. So a lot of time in Eastern Europe, and it was great working with all the our partners there, lesser-known partners such as Georgia and. I started with Ukraine back in 2014,
Wow.
before the Sochi Olympics. So I've had exposure to them before the little green men crossed the border, and it's been a fantastic experience from day one till even now. I'm still in contact with a lot of them.
Yeah, retirement's going great for you, I can tell.
So far, so good. What they don't tell you is that it takes about the first 3 or 4 months just to deinstitutionalize, and you get that "What are you going to do now?" question. And I have no idea. I'm just going to enjoy it. Every day is Saturday, and I don't work weekends.
Nice. I dream of the day.
It'll come.
One question I had is what got you started into metal mounting?
Well, I think, quite honestly, it was the fact that there wasn't a lot of people around that did it. I sort of now use the analogy, in modern times. It was like before weed was legal. You needed to know a guy, and they weren't advertising. And now you have boutiques on the street or very professional websites with very skilled people who take the time and do it right. And I think that's fantastic. So for me, it was I looked around and said, well, the bass Taylor's the guy in Toronto. And it wasn't really well known. And I saw a plexiglass mount, and I thought, you know what? That's it. That's where the future needs to be. And I made the decision I was going to start and be a plexiglass guy, and then that's what I started doing. Probably one of the first few dudes in Toronto that was actually using plexi for mounts back then.
It has grown just in the last couple of years to see all of the small companies that do such great work. And of course, now, and I can never remember the exact wording, but we've kind of become the Canadian Metal Mounters Association, which I quite like because that little group is so positive in support for each other. And hey, I've never dealt with this. How do I? And I saw that recently with somebody posting an MFO with a commendation, and I had never seen that either. And so to have a reference or some sort of group, hey, I've never dealt with this. How do I deal with it? I think that's really good.
Well, you're right, and I mean, I'll always point the finger towards myself before I point it at anybody else. I mean, when we first started this group, and I give Shivs a lot of credit. I mean, Andrew, um, Andrew was one of my troops back in the day. He made mention of that. But I'm honored that he, sort of looked at what I did at the time and said, "Hey, I can do that." And, you know, very much like anybody who influences somebody else, he took it and he's made it better. He's got his own techniques down. And
Hmm.
when I say pointing the finger, I mean at the very beginning when there was only like two or three of us on the site and that, and I was sort of guarded, right? Like I spent years making my jigs. I did all my own trial and error, and I was very much, my initial attitude was, no, I'm here to, yeah, sure, I'll help, I'll give hints, I'll advise, but I mean, I'm not lifting my skirt and giving away all the secrets kind of thing. And now that's completely different. I give of anything. And I think that the mounters that are going to become even more and more accurate than I ever was in trying to cut plexi with a table saw and making sure that everything was accurate and corners were square and everything else and filing everything down is the cats now who have the 3D printers that are going to be laying out their own bases and doing all the math. That's where the next step is. So Plexi will disappear, I think, or will be the backup, or the old cardboard beer box of my days when nobody had Ruckum, to do a proper mount that way. So yeah, it's I love it, and I love to see people being proud of the work that they do, and throwing it out there and showing it because it's the art. I don't think that's the thing that people realize when they look at a mounter is the art of it. You've got so many different math variables. I was never good at math. This, usually equals 10 if I have all my fingers, right? So for me, it was, you got 35 millimeter, or you got 38 millimeter, or you've got 32 millimeter ribbon. You've got 32 millimeter discs, or smaller or bigger, depending on what it is. So to be able to get that down to the millimeters so that everything is absolutely centered, I mean, then you're a wizard. Congratulations, you are the best mounter in the world. So there's a bit of an art to it to be able to make sure that not only is everything square, but when you're looking at that rack, the colors come together in such a way that just a little bit left or right could rob you of a bit of an artistic flair
Yes.
that comes into that mount itself.
I always enjoy seeing all of our different interpretations of the same rules. There's always a little bit of difference in how bars are laid out and things like that. And there are times where I never thought of that before. I like how that looks. I interpreted it this way, but I see, and I think people don't understand that I have a book from 1943 from the Commonwealth on how metals are to be laid out, and it has evolved since then. And there really isn't much today. There's some vague guidelines, but I mean, they change too. I think one of the biggest changes is the mention in dispatches and the tour numerals now becoming in line with the bars as opposed to the older days of having the MID above a bar, tour numeral below, which I have to admit, even though my OCD goes in there, I still like, and I still have a number of returning customers that say, don't do the new style, stick with the old. But it is interesting to see, and I can see why they do it, and to see the newer mounters do that way. I go, okay, maybe it's time I grow up a little bit and get in line.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, for me, at the beginning, I went through my glue phase. Oh, Uh, I think everybody goes through that. There's the double-sided tape, there's the alien tape, there's the triangle. Like, there's so many different products out there, and so many different ways that guys are trying to and gals are trying to nail it down. And for me, what I ended up settling on at one point, first and foremost, I'm old school. I believe in the 4 inch length. I'm sorry.
Yes,
It's it's
yes.
it's a 4 inch length. I'm sorry. That's it. There's a half inch at the bottom for display on the back, and that's it. That's all. I'll live and die on that hill. But I ended up to the point where I said, all right, I'm wiring everything down, but I'm not fixing the metals. So I wire everything down. Everything is dead square flat, but I don't affix the metals in any other way other than to wire them down. So you get a little bit of sound, like a swing mount,
Okay.
but everything is in play and it's locked down and it doesn't really move. So that's sort of what I settled on. My clients like that, and so I think that again, it speaks to the artistic nature of what each of us decide that we're gonna play into, or uses our flair. I've never actually had any of my mounts come back to me in a roundabout circle way. But I don't know if you do, but I have a maker's mark also on all my mounts, so I know. And if anybody sees any plastic mount or plexi mounts out there with some weird looking arrows and some squares on it, yeah, that's one of mine.
Speaking of the metals, what is your favorite metal?
My favorite actually is the one that I get to mount for the first time. So I don't have a fixed first metal.
Okay.
That's always been sort of the rush for me. I remember my first Order of Canada was Dr. Neville Poy, who was the honorary colonel of the regiment that the Rangers that Andrew and I belonged to together, and I got to do that. So to handle my first Order of Canada, or to handle my first Medal of Military Merit, or my first Star of Valor. I mean, that's it, because it's not just what your favorite medal is. It's like for anybody else, for admirers or mounters, or just people who are into coins and numismatics and stuff like that. It's the story behind it. So that's it. And of course, my personal favorite medal right now just happens to be the Polish Army Medal in gold, because I was fortunate enough to be awarded that beautiful medal, and it was gazetted, and it is very pretty. So yeah, my personal favorite right now, because that's the last first that I did.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thanks, that's great. I appreciate it.
I thought I was the only kind of nerd who, when I get a new medal or ribbon, so an operational service medal, which I've done countless expeditions, but all of a sudden, if I receive the Sierra Leone one with the ribbon, to me, that's like a whole new medal. Even though I've mounted the actual physical medal, having that new ribbon, that's always kind of a thrill. So I thought I was the only one who felt that way, but it's good to know that everybody has kind of that rush.
Oh, and I'll bet you that the deeper you get into this, and the more mounting pros that you sit down and chat with, I'm pretty sure that yeah, I think a lot of them feel the same way, because I mean that's the draw, right?
Hmm.
And is the piece itself. I mean, they're gorgeous, right? They're things that are made with a purpose,
Hmm.
and the beauty reflects the purpose. I think I don't think I've ever really seen an ugly metal, no matter what the material is. It could be white metal, but if it was made for a purpose, it has its own beauty, because it has its own story.
Oh, I agree fully. Our medal for this episode is the Special Service Medal. And I'm just going to give a bit of the details and then we'll get into it. It's a circular medal of copper and zinc alloy, 36 millimeters in diameter, which is pretty common for Canada. The 32 millimeter ribbon on the obverse, which is the front, it's the maple leaf surrounded by a laurel wreath. And then the reverse says Special Service and Special in French with the Royal Crown and Cipher. The attachment is a single toe claw attached to the top of the medal and a center slotted or straight slotted bar. And interesting, they have updated the criteria that the medal, except when it bears the Royal Cipher of Queen Elizabeth II, is now engraved on the edge with the service number, abbreviated rank, and surname for military. And I know police are now able to be awarded this. That was updated. And the ribbon, like I said, 32 millimeter. The huge thing about it, I know you've got the red and white on the edges, which are Canada's colors. The middle for years has been sort of a black, but it's supposed to be dark green, which is similar to the unification green of the uniform when the medal was approved in 1984. How many times do we see the black though?
Yeah, I mean, if I ran downstairs and grabbed my roll, um, yeah, no, it's black for sure.
I have seen the older ones, and it almost looks like it's a black that's faded. But then I have to realize, oh, this is the actual unification green, as they call it.
Well, I mean, I think that you were pretty close to wearing the old unification green CFs. I certainly was. It didn't look like that.
No, no. I joined in '92, so yeah, we had the greens and had the tans as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was on the tail end of the old Garrison paint by number jacket.
Canadian
So
Tire Special.
yes,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the Brocky and Bratwurst medal, as we joked about before, 180 days in Germany, 4 Brigade, and that was pretty much it at the beginning.
I was telling somebody the other day that when I joined, if you saw somebody with the CD, the UN Cypress, and the SSM, that was the equivalent of almost a World War II vet. Like that was that single row. The SSM was an integral part of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and it was weird because you talk about age. I got out comparison to when I joined. If I go back to my join date, I'd be the same age as the World War II dudes. So that's absolutely scary. But yeah, I mean, in our day, it was the Korea medals, right? And we would see the guys with the Korean medals, and on top of that, then you had the some guys had some World War II stars and the whatnot, and then you got the big five from World War II plus
Yeah,
the Korean ones, and then that dude was like, "Wow, okay,
yeah.
you've seen it all." But it was interesting because I was tanker, right? So we knew back in the day, as you said, the guys that had those 3 medals, and they were the gunnery gods from Germany that won the Canadian Army trophy and were doing crazy things with Leopard tanks that just left everybody else in awe. So you're right, those guys, they were the kings. And now the kings are guys with SWASMs and Afghanistan medals. And
Hmm.
the crazy thing about it is that those guys are running out of time now,
Hmm.
right? So when you think about the last time we were in Afghanistan and people were earning and really earning the hard way at those medals, and now we're going back to the idea where yeah, if you've got an SSM, Latvia's the new 4 Brigade.
Yeah. And getting into the bars, and the medal came in 1984, but each bar is in some cases backdated. And I'll throw this out. Kyle Scott is the absolute guru when it comes to, hey, am I able to be awarded this medal? Here's my record. So please reach out to him. Please be kind. I'm a big believer of that. When you go to his site, if somebody has been awarded a medal that you believe you are entitled to, don't come down on the poor person who did receive it. So the first bar, which probably is the rarest, is simply Pakistan, 89 to 90. It was 90 days service between March 89 to July 1990 under the UN. The bar is obviously no longer issued, and the medal and bar can be exchanged for the UN Special Service Medal. So that I've never seen a Pakistan bar.
No, I haven't seen one either.
Next is alert, the 180 days of honorable service for posted strength of Canadian Forces Station CFS alert. And it is backdated to September 1958 and still continuing. Units deployed also include aircrew flying into the station for resupply. That held that big 180 day that the SSM was famous for at the beginning. I don't know how many people are in alert now, but I have done a couple of those.
Yeah, another one of my troops who went on to great success. Ryan Port was the CO up there,
Oh
actually.
wow.
Yeah, pilot, SAR pilot, good guy. But he commanded up there. I'd done a couple of those, and from what I understand, I mean, it's a really enriching experience, but it truly is special service.
Hmm.
I mean, when you're up there for that length of time and either the sun never comes up or the sun never goes down, that's got to play on the body, right? Like there is something unique about it, and that's the important aspect that we all have to remember about why they're being issued in the first place, right?
I agree. Third is peace. It was for 180 days of honorable service and peacekeeping operations from November 47 to June 2001, where another medal or award was not already issued. And since June 2001, there's been no further missions approved for the bar. The bar is essentially retired, as that time now counts to the CPSM, the Canadian Peacekeeping Service Medal. I have to stop with all the acronyms because it throws people off that aren't used to SWASMs and CPSMs. And
Yeah, yeah, agreed. And no, I haven't seen one of those either. So they're like hen's teeth, I think.
the big one that I truly believe was on its way out when I was on my way out, NATO. It's broken down into two sections. So from 1951 to 2004, and very specific when you're dealing with the 1951 touching into Korea. That's where Kyle's specialty definitely is. From that time period, 51 to 2004, 180 days of honorable service. Obviously, cumulative, it didn't have to be all at one time. And NATO's area of responsibility, and of course, qualifying service for naval and aircraft and everything else. And then in 2004, it changes to 45 days to gain that. And of course, there's eligible lists for both of them. And it wasn't backdated 45 days. I think that's where people misunderstand is 2004 forward is 45 days. It doesn't backdate to that 1951. So unfortunately, if you had 160 days pre-2004, that's where you're at.
And of course, you had to keep your nose clean, or else you'd lose those days.
Yes, yes, and it's became I believe it became a bit of a stopgap. And with the Special Service Medal, it is always awarded with a bar. So the undress ribbon, I think, throws people off when somebody has one bar on the medal. They don't have the silver maple leaf on the undress ribbon. I think that people confuse that with the rotation. This had its own kind of multiple bar system, but there's no rotation bar on this. So you do have people who, when they started using NATO for the European theater recently, you may have two missions under it, and unfortunately, you just have the one bar.
Yeah, I think that's just pretty much the same as it's almost like the British General Service Medal
Yes.
with all the tour bars on it, right? And
Yep.
there's no numbers assigned with that, so it's just you get the name for whatever one you're on.
I always laugh that the NATO bar I don't see often when we're dealing with the overlap. It's the OTAN bar because that's how it comes across in French, and that's usually the side that's showing.
That's right, and you can't turn it upside down.
No. The next is another bar that has been retired, and I'm sure my Latin is rusty. Humanitas. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, humanitas for the humanitarian relief. So yeah,
Yeah, 30 days of honorable service performed outside of Canada, 1984 to 2009. I know there have been two separate private members' bills that have been put through to try create either a domestic bar or expand this bar into domestic operations like the wildfires, flooding, things like that. I was one of the fortunate people, I guess, to be part of the GTS Katie, and it's never gone beyond that stage. So this one in 2009 basically was shut down because now humanitarian service eligibility is counted towards the operational service medal with the Humanitas ribbon, and that does allow for rotation bars.
yeah. Another one that eluded me along the way, but I think that we went the right way with doing one for ourselves. But on the terms of a domestic bar, I think that's a separate paragraph. But I'm of like mind with that. Or yeah, we need to start looking internally as well, and we already have precedent, right? Because we have alert. I mean, that's service internal to Canada. So
And I know Australia has certainly a set of honors that is internal and part of their federal, especially when it comes to the wildfires. I had the opportunity to mount one of them awarded to a Canadian that was down there as a firefighter. The next bar, Ranger. This is probably a misunderstood one too. It's 4 years of honorable service as a Canadian Ranger or instructor and performing the duties of Military Presence Canada. And it's providing local expertise, assistance, and advice as a guide, advisor, search and rescue, and the completion of a minimum of 3 Ranger patrol exercises. And I think that's where it breaks down into there's 6 different types. Type 1 and 2 patrols do not qualify, and types 3, 4, 5, 6 do qualify.
Yeah. And I'm glad that this one actually came through, quite honestly. I was, one of my claims to fame is that I was part of the crew that helped establish 3CRPG in Borden.
Oh, wow.
I was part of the area headquarters, so I was from that side of it. I certainly wasn't on the ground, actually doing things hand in glove, as it were. But a good number of my friends were, and I know a lot of, as the Navy say, plank holders or first timers or originators with the Rangers. A good friend of mine, Ron Wen, was a warrant officer. Spent a lot of time. I would say Ron's been with them for over 15 years or more. And when those patrols are no joke, you know, you are way up north of 60, north of 50 in Ontario in very austere conditions. And sometimes, as a young warrant officer like that, you're out there and you're the man, and you're responsible for a lot of people. And again, it is what our job is, but the mindset that you need to have in dealing with First Nations. Every First Nations community is different, so they earn it, and it was a hard fight for them, actually, to go through the process to have that bar recognized, established, and issued.
I've never seen one, but I've done the research into the patrols, and yeah, you're right. And again, it does set up another precedent for internal. One quick thing about the bars is the order of precedence is as they are earned, with the closest going to the bottom, or the initial issue going to the bottom, and then kind of going up that way. So your newest bar would be at the top, and then kind of in line that way. Next is the expedition bar. This one, I promised we weren't going to get into HR, and we're not. I will get into this. Was a little weird having this created when you had the operational service medals already in play. It is kind of a catch-all. It's an aggregate of 45 days of honorable service performed outside Canada beginning July of 2007, where again, it's not counted towards another Canadian or service medal, which is kind of what the operational service medals were supposed to be for. And we just changed the ribbon and allows rotation bars. But I know that expedition is definitely one of the bars I see the most at this point.
Yeah, and full disclosure, and props to Kyle. Absolutely, I'm actually in the mid process of this particular medal myself for what I did. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I was also at the epicenter when reassurance was all going on. I was at the Army headquarters at the time, and reassurance actually started out as a an exercise with the poles that they conducted annually called Dragon, and it was an airborne exercise. And we took an airborne platoon from the Patricias and got them over there, and they were participating in that. And then as everything ramped up, they sort of became the nucleus of the Canadian presence in Europe, and it built and built and built. And the Army was managing it as an exercise and a training opportunity at the beginning. And then when things started to operationalize, then the Army G3 started getting involved, and then they started managing it at the national level. So anyway, I think that you're right. It could have been, you know, it could have been named as an operation. It is certainly named as an operation now, which would have made sense. But we've got expeditionary covering the training mission, and then that's sort of morphed into the NATO bar with the with what it's all become
Mm-hmm.
as op reassurance. So the expeditionary bar, yeah, transitional to say the least, I would say, from direct focus on Ukraine morphing into the mission. But there's a lot of people that ended up going over there to support the training mission. So that one, yeah, seen a lot.
I do like the throwback to, just like with the General Campaign Star, I like the throwback to kind of that World War One star. I like the expedition going back to that World War One feel of expeditionary. I just every now and then I think we get our backs up and as metal mounters and go, did anybody do any research on this? And I think there's a lot more research than necessarily we give credit for sometimes.
Well, there is. I absolutely agree with you, but I would suggest that, yeah, I mean, when you look at the changes that were made, especially introducing the 45-day threshold, that was that shook people.
Yes, it
It
did.
shook people a lot because that 180 days, that was a sacred benchmark
Yep.
for the longest period of time. So the 45-day bit, then you would have people that would do tabs, and they would do multiple tabs because that was the only way that they could get over. I did force generation at a brigade headquarters for missions and stuff, and it's not easy to get over there, even for the people who want to get over there, especially with talking about the reserve side of the house. So, you know, it's good, I think, that they did that 45-day to enable people who really, really wanted and tried very hard on their own to get out there and manipulate their circumstances in their lives to be able to make that happen. Not everybody has a year and a half to be able to lead up, run up, do a mission, come back, and carry on with life.
Yep. No, you're right. So the final bar, which is the newest since November 2024, and again, you have to pardon my pronunciation, Distantia. Distantia?
I haven't actually figured it out either, so I'll just go with yours.
Yeah, I may have called it up this morning on Google and tried to have it play. And it's a confusing one, so it's either 180 consecutive days or an aggregate of 270 days, 60 of which are consecutive of honorable service after November 2024, performed in Canada or outside, other than a theater of operations where there would already be a specific medal for that. And it's for the specific purpose of remotely participating on a full time basis in approved operations, either with personal use of weapon systems, delivery of a target, basically RPAS. It is our version of the drone medal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, that's exactly it. And we're going to see an awful lot more, I think, in the future of those CCAN cities on our bases with guys walking into their CCAN cockpits and doing the business.
There are no post nominals for this, and under the SSM NATO, the Canadian Forces members who have died under the service of this medal are Master Corporal Cousins. It'd be Sub Lieutenant Cowbrow, Captain Hagen, Captain McDonald, Captain Marin Moran, and Sub Lieutenant Pike. And I apologize for any last names that I butchered. That's not the intent. I just wanted to make sure that I paid the respect for those that gave their service under that medal.
Absolutely. Rest in peace, brothers and sisters.
As we're coming towards the end, what is your favorite medal set?
So, yeah, my favorite medal set is when I was in Ottawa, I was approached by a dear friend, and they were doing a display for what was then known as the Army Officers Mess in Ottawa. In the basement, they have each area of that mess at the time had an area for the different branches. So the RCR and the infantry had theirs, the SIGs and the artillery were upstairs, and the Armor Corps was in the basement. We called it the stables. So General Worthington, Frank Worthington, known as the father of the Armored Corps, his medals. I got to
Oh,
I got to put a display package together, which was a mix of copies and some originals that we put together. And I got to mount that display up, and it was harder than hell because it was a swing mount, of course,
oh,
for display purposes. And General Worthington had the MC with bar, along with all of his World War II medals. He also had some French medals. He was awarded the Order of the Bath, but that was back in the time when Canadians were not allowed to officially accept the knighthood. So, and he got after the war, he ended up going over to Norway, and he was helping with developing or reestablishing a bunch of infrastructure projects, and he was awarded a medal from the government there as well. So that was a really hard find to find one of those. It took me about 2 or 3 months to track that one down, but I would say that was my favorite set because of who it was
Mm-hmm.
and what it was. And now, whenever anybody goes in there and is in the officer's mess and happens to look at that particular set of medals, I can smile a little bit and say, yeah, that was my work there.
That's incredible. I know all of us have pet peeves, and I'm always interested to hear other mounters' pet peeves because they're probably very similar. But what is one of your pet peeves, either with metals or metal mounting?
I think that I think that the biggest one, my biggest pet peeve is one that this association of ours is seeking to eliminate. And I know, so it's the care and the quality of the work that goes into it. I treat every set of medals that goes through my hands as if I was putting them on my own uniform.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't charge a lot of money either. When I started out, it was $10 for a full size medal and $8 for a mini. And at the end of it, I ended up doing a flat rate. I just
Yeah.
said, it's $15 per, and that was the way that I charged. And the way that I looked at it is because I don't need to make all my money off of one client. I will make my money through volume because my work will speak for itself. So my biggest pet peeve is the people who would offer their services and would do the work, but haphazardly without any care. It was just a job to do because there was going to be some dough at the end of it, I think. So
Yeah.
that's my biggest pet peeve because when go through people using caustic substances, really tough polymers, ripping the finish off of metals, offering a dip service to dip metals just because it'll make them look better, but it takes away from the original. So I'm a purist, I guess. So that's my biggest pet peeve is people who don't treat the metals with the respect that they're due because it is art as far as
It
I'm
is.
concerned.
It is. And that's one thing I like about this association is quite often we see people's work before they post it on their own site. I love seeing it and I encourage our fellow mounters don't think that because we all metal mount, we don't want to see your work. I can't simply follow every single mounter. So to see it in the association page, I absolutely love that.
Yeah, and it reinforces that trust, right? And we start self-policing. And that's the whole purpose behind it. We start self-policing, and we do that because we think it's right. And on top of that, I would say, just like you take a metal breakdown and you discuss all the aspects of it. You have taken the time to research the background of it. I never went that far. Sure, I know of them. I know of the orders of precedence. I know the way they're supposed to go. I know the way it's supposed to look. But, as this thing continues, as it develops, we get more and more people that are so in tune with the way things are supposed to work, and why it's supposed to work that way. It almost is, it's becoming like I won't go so far as to say it's a profession. That might be a little bit of a too much hubris going in there. But it's certainly a very detailed hobby. It's a service that deserves a certain level of cachet, and it deserves a certain level of respect. And I think that that's what the members of the group do. And as I said, I am completely open as to completely closed. So anything that I can do to make any other mounter better is something that I will do because it's not a competition. It's looking after
Yes.
our client base who deserve it.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head on a couple that, yes, we're not in competition. I will refer people to someone who's closer to them if they're not already an established client, simply to save some shipping if it's somebody that I trust. And I do think that this is a service. It's definitely not a profession that you're going to make a ton of money. Yeah, I know that, but it is a service. So, Sean, I really appreciate you taking the time for my nerdy little project here. And thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for your service and that you keep giving back with Distinguished Service Medal, which is still one of the best names of the companies.
Thanks very much, Pat. I think what people on the outside need to also recognize and understand about you is that you are one of the valuable resources for the community. So don't underestimate your value, my friend, to this community. And I appreciate you and everything that you do to help us serve our clients. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and I wish you the best.
All right, cheers. This has been fun. Much success. Take care.
This episode's metal word of the day is reverse. Pretty common word, and I think everybody knows what it means. But when we talk in relation to coins and metals, the obverse is the front and the reverse is the back. Thank you for listening to Metals of Mayhem, brought to you by Heritage Metal Service. This episode was pre-recorded and edited by Bad Puppy Productions. If you have any questions, comments, or metal-related trivia, please contact me at heritagemetalservice@gmail.com.